So this is my first crochet tutorial, and I'm going to go over first what generally you're going to need to crochet. Obviously you're going to need a skein of yarn. This is a big twist skein. I got it on clearance at Joann's because they were having a super sale here. And when it comes to skeins, well, this one actually tells you how many skeins of this yarn you'll need per your project. But they also come with a hook or needle recommendation depending on what you're working on, as well as what the size of the yarn is. So this one is a 5 bulky. Usually yarn is a 4. It's like a little bit thinner than this. And the crochet hook you're going to want to use is a US J10/6mm normally. I'm going to do things a little different. And sometimes, this one doesn't have anything in it, but sometimes when you open up your yarn, it'll have either washing instructions or a pattern of some sort in it, which is always nice. And then you're going to want to find the beginning of your skein. Here we go. Some people like to pull from the center. I prefer to not do that. I don't like the way it looks when it collapses. It just bothers me for some reason, so I don't do that. I'm just going to pull off plenty of the yarn here. And set that to the side. So now we have some yarn to start. Now this right here contains pretty much all of my crochet tools except for polyfill or like stuffing. I think I got it at Walmart for like $10. It's just a little hook set. As you can see, some of my hooks are missing because I have them being used on other projects. But this was like $10 or $11 at Walmart. I highly recommend getting it because you get a very nice variety of hook sizes, and you can put stuff in here with it. You can always get a different one. I do a lot of micro crochet or like small crochet, so I bought a bunch of smaller hooks as well. And then outside of this, you're going to want to get yourself some yarn needles or darning needles. Let's see how well it is. It's basically just a sewing needle that's not as sharp and has a bigger loop to fit yarn in. And that's just to sew in your ends and stuff, although sometimes you're able to just work in the ends at the end and you don't actually have to sew them in. These are other hooks that I just have loosely hanging in there because they don't really have a spot. And then obviously you're going to need a pair of scissors. I got these from an Asian market and I love them. So it says to use size 6, but I'm going to use a size 5 crochet hook. Here we go. Let me see here, focus. It says H/8-5mm hook. And I'm using that because that is the most common size for a project like a hat or a scarf that I've noticed, and those are really good beginner projects. So I would recommend doing that. So first, I'm just going to show you some basics how to single crochet. So, and chain stitch. First, you're going to want to do a slip knot. There's a couple different ways to do this. So the easiest way to come up with a slip knot is to just take it, make a little loop here like this, and then take that loop, fold it over the yarn attached to the ball, and then pull that yarn that's attached to the ball through the loop and tighten the loop. And you're going to want to leave a decent sized tail because again, you're either going to be sewing it in or working it in. And then from there, you're going to insert your hook. And this, I am right-handed, so there are different tutorials for left-handers. I imagine that the way you hold it is really similar, but I'm not left-handed, so I wouldn't for sure know. But you're basically going to take your crochet hook and yarn, and you're gonna want to hold it kind of like this. So you have your working yarn, and that's the yarn that is attached to the ball of yarn, over your index finger and leading into your hand here so you can keep it taut and like hold it. And then you're going to want to take your middle finger and your thumb or you can use as many as you need to hold on and hold with the stuff that you've already made, like this. So for a chain, you're just going to take your hook, wrap the yarn around. You can go this way or this way, but it's most common to wrap from the behind, from the back. And you're just going to pull it through the chain just like that. Really simple, really easy. So again, you're going to want to hold it, index finger holding your yarn, and then the rest of your hand holding what you've already made. Wrap around and pull through. And for this project, we're just going to do, let's see here, so far we have 3. And here's how you count your chains. So 1, 2, 3, and then that's the slip knot. I don't know how well you all can see that, but we have 1, 2, 3. And you can tell chain based off of the little bumps there. So there's 3 little bumps, not counting this, this one right here. This is a knot, but there's 3 little bumps. So we're just going to do 6 of them. 6 chains. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And whenever you're doing a project, you never crochet into this slips or this chain right here. Because if you crochet into this chain right here, you're just going to be undoing your work. Or like wrapping it around the hook like that. Because this is where your yarn is. So if you put it back into there, you're not going to be doing anything. How many you skip depends on what stitch you're doing, and we'll go into that more detailed in a different video. But for now, we're going to be doing the single crochet. So we're just going to skip the first stitch next to the hook. So we're going to do the second chain from the hook, which would be this one right here. So 1, 2, and you're going to insert your hook into the middle of that chain, and then you're going to wrap your yarn around your hook again, and you're going to pull through your first loop. So now you have 2 loops on your hook, and then you're going to wrap around your chain, your hook again, and pull through both of them. So just one more time. Push your hook through the loop, yarn over, pull through, and then you're gonna yarn over and pull through both loops. Okay, so in the middle of the chain, yarn over, pull through 1 loop, yarn over, pull through both loops. And you're gonna do that till the end. Now, if you want to continue and you want to do more rows, you're going to want to do at least 1 chain. And then there's 2 different ways you can do this. You can either do 1 chain here and then immediately go into your first single crochet, or here we go, your first single crochet here, like that. And if you ever mess up, all you have to do is take your hook out and pull your string, and you can just take it all out. So chain 1, and then you're going to want to turn your work to whenever you're working, but chain 1, and then you can insert your hook and immediately start single crocheting into each stitch. And since we skipped that first chain, you should have 5 single crochets, and I'll show you how to count those in just 1 second. But you're going to be doing the exact same thing. There's these 2 right here, push it through, pull, just like that. Now we have a little bit of a rectangle, and the other method is you would actually chain 2, and this would count as your first stitch, and you would skip this one and go into this one. You'll go into your second one. and then you would go ahead and single crochet across. Remember to turn your work each time you start a new row. And this is something that you will do on any flat project. So when you do it that way, I don't know how well you can see it because the yarn is fluffy, but there is a little bit of a gap there. I prefer to do the just one chain stitch when I turn, because there is going to be that little bit of a gap there depending on how big your stitches are. It's not too noticeable where this is a single crochet, but when you do projects like double crochet or treble crochet, it becomes a little bit more noticeable. But if you do that method, you just kind of pull into it the same way you did with the other chains. And then you can go however long you want it. And this is the basics of single crochet and chain. And then to finish off your work, again, there's a couple different ways you can do it. Some people will just pull out their loop and then cut it here and be done. Personally, what I like to do is I like to cut off, I like to cut a little bit of a decent tail, just a couple of inches. And then I like to actually go ahead and do one last chain to finish off my work and really tighten it. That way it's extra firm, extra grounded. And then that's the first one. First little square. And then with the yarn needles, I have several different sizes here. I'm going to use the biggest one so that way it's easiest to see. But whenever you're done with your work, you're going to want to sew in your ends or work them in. In this case, we're going to do the sewing in method. So you're just going to pull your yarn through your loop. And then you're going to take your work, and if you notice, you see these little V's right through here, like especially, let's see here, right through here on the top. You're going to want to sew in between those. So basically you're going to take your work, and if you look on the side, there will be a little gap between the stitch right here. And the easiest way is to just go through that. It can be a little frustrating. It can take time when you're not used to it. But you're just going to want to slowly weave your way in. And pull through. And then from here, if you want to weave in more, you can. I'm not going to though. I would just snip as close as possible. And then it is not in there anymore. So again, I'll show you with this one. Well, you'll find the kind of center of your stitches and just work your way on through. It is a little bit harder, I think, when you're at the beginning of your work versus the end of your work, because the beginning of your work was started on a chain, whereas the end of your work you have other single crochets that you can easily get in. But I think I'm just going to do halfway here. And you don't have to do to the end like I did on the first one. You can do it pretty much anywhere. Now we have a little square / rectangle. And that is the slip knot, the chain stitch, and the single crochet.